Hello my friends, welcome to a new video. Today a comparison between the CAMMUS C5 and the Fanatec CSL DD 5 Nm. When it comes to design, CAMMUS really did something different, and the design actually is because they changed the complete hardware of it. So what they did is they tried to strip away the unnecessary and just you have like a motor, and on this motor you have a steering wheel attached, and this reflects to the design how you see it, and it is completely different than the boring black boxes that we have. So whether it is good, the design aesthetically or not, well, I'm not judging about this. I like it, but you have to give them some credit for doing something else than the competition. In terms of build quality, it is very difficult to judge. The Fanatec wheelbase feels, despite the color issue, very decent quality-wise. The C5 is more difficult to judge because the steering wheel and wheelbase are integrated. It does feel heavy and everything seems to be very solid. One thing that I do need to mention is the external fan, but in all honesty, this is more a design issue rather than a build quality issue. What is more easy to compare is the steering wheel quality. The rubber of the Fanatec steering wheel is quite alright, but the C5 steering wheel has a leather upholstery stitched to the wheel. The diameter of the D-shaped C5 is 28 cm, which is a bit too small for my taste versus the 30 cm of the round BMW wheel. The button quality on both steering wheels is good, with a small advantage for CAMMUS because of the quality of the rotary buttons and the included sticker. When it comes to the shifters, the C5 shifters are really small, but seemingly very sturdy. The Fanatec shifters are made of metal and feel very generic. There is a ref counter and odometer worked into the C5 center disc, and the Fanatec wheel has a small 3-digit LED display and a ref stripe. Here too, I find the integration of the ref bar and odometer of the C5 more classy and of higher quality. This being said, Fanatec is doing a deal at this moment that you can add some more higher end steering wheels with their new hub for the same price, and they simply look fantastic. I will order one and check them out, but from the looks and specs, it might help restore the balance when it comes to steering wheel quality with the C5. A remark here, the standard quick release for Fanatec remains the same on these new wheel bundles, so they still feel and sound cheap. The pedals of the C5 are basic, and here the difference are the larger pedal arms and faces of the CSL DD pedals, but also the foam to make the brake more squishy. Out of the box, the pedals of the C5 can be used by connecting the USB-C directly to the PC. This is not possible with the Fanatec CSL pedals. Okay, so quality issues. We all know Fanatec has their problems with quality, being the color of the CSL DD, which is not tightened. Sometimes I experience the same problem. It is an easy fix, of course, but it's a problem nonetheless. The QR, it squeaks when you drive with it from time to time. This is more because it is just plastic, and it's the material problem. Can't be fixed except if you buy another QR system, but then of course the price will go up. It does, however, when you drive with it, it doesn't get hot, and that's a bit different with the C5. So what I noticed with the C5 is when you crank up the power, that it also becomes relatively hot. There is an external fan included, so there is no internal cooling as far as I noticed. So there is an external fan included which can cool it a bit down, but I don't think it will be so much different, because the fan seems to be mounted really weird to blow away the hot air. So C5 reasonably new, not many problems, no, but that's just because it hasn't been sold that much yet. So we still have to see about the quality for the C5. When it comes to compatibility, it's a hot topic, because with Moza bringing out their Xbox compatibility R3, it's a hot topic. Fanatec CSL DD is Xbox ready in the €400 bundle. If you want to have it really Xbox compatible, you will need the Xbox steering wheel. You can have like the McLaren steering wheel Very nice steering wheel in my opinion, and it is just a fraction more than the P1 steering wheel. So yeah, Xbox compatibility for Fanatec. If you go to the GTDD Pro, you also, which is the brother of the CSL DD, you also have the PlayStation compatibility, but then the price goes up quite a lot. For CAMMUS, we don't see any compatibility with the consoles yet. Because I experienced the wheelbase of the C5 getting quite hot when I did the initial review, I toned it down to 85% this time to limit heat generation. The thing that struck me directly was the difference in power between both. Even with the C5 not set to its maximum, it still just felt so much heavier than the CSL DD. And I mean heavy in a good way. I tried to change the settings for the Fanatec, but I just couldn't simulate the same feeling with it. I was able to get it more heavy, but then it felt more sluggish also to drive. In all, I must have toyed around for 15 minutes with the settings without getting the same result. The feeling of the tires was also much more clear with the C5, meaning I could sense the level of grip much better than with the Fanatec. The C5 also felt more precise and detailed in the corners. Don't get me wrong, the Fanatec still delivered a nice driving sensation in ACC, but it just came up short against the intensity and accuracy of the CAMMUS. In BeamNG it was more of the same, with just a general more immersive experience. The motor delivered a fine performance when braking and taking the corners, and I was able to feel the behavior of the car through the steering wheel of the C5. The Fanatec performed according to expectations, a very smooth ride but just a tad slow and sluggish in comparison with the C5. While the rubber of the Fanatec wheel is okay for GT driving, it simply doesn't give the sensation you really want when driving a city car. If you drive without gloves, it will get sticky, and a general feeling when letting it slide back into the center position simply does not give the satisfaction it should. This is not so much an issue with the leather steering wheel of the C5. The centering itself also felt more real with the C5. The shifting is for both okay, but I can't help but feel that the C5 here too just feels a bit more precise and premium. The mechanism for the BMW shifters is very basic, and while this is by no means bad, you do feel a difference in quality during the shifting. Again, I have to stress that I am using the BMW wheel, which is similar to the P1 wheel, but completely different than the new bundles that Fanatec presented for €200. What is clear is that even though the steering wheel of the C5 is smaller than my personal preference, it feels and handles above expectations. With the C5, the sensation of using the accelerator and brake is pretty much the same. The CSL brake pedal, on the other hand, offers a bit more of a progressive feeling with the added stopper. There is not that much of a difference between the accuracy of the pedals. A last remark would be that the pedal arms are a bit longer on the Fanatec. I can use more of the top of my feet to apply pressure. This and the brake stopper makes me prefer the CSL pedals over the C5 pedals. Prices, if you look at Fanatec, €400, tax included, shipment is not. Availability, Europe, North America, the rest of the world, very difficult to come by. Fanatec for a reasonable price. If you look at CAMMUS, so they started out not that long ago. Most shipment at this moment is done from China. You will need to pay €300 or $300 for the C5 and the pedals, but shipment and tax, and that will bring it €400, even €420 if you're unlucky for tax. And that's the same price. It will be a bit cheaper because of course you have shipment on the Fanatec too. But this will get better because I see that overseas warehouses are getting their shipments of C5 in October, September and October. So the warehouse in France, for example, and the UK, they will be getting their C5s shortly. Prices will go down at that moment too. So if you look at it, really, the CAMMUS C5 is the cheapest direct drive which is worth something on the market at this moment. Upgradability, of course, is something which Fanatec scores well in. You have the Fanatec base, which can be up to 8 Nm with the official power supply or an unofficial power supply. Choose which one you want. But also they have a very big ecosystem, and that is something which CAMMUS doesn't have for the C5. So you can't exchange the wheel like you can do with the Fanatec, and you can't up the power for the base, because it's what it is. When I previously compared the Moza R5 with the Fanatec, the price and easy upgradability of the Fanatec base was what tilted the balance towards choosing Fanatec as a more interesting base. However, with the CAMMUS C5 this advantage is gone, or at least the price part. And it's not only that, the C5 feels so much more like the CSL DD 8Nm than it does like the 5Nm for both force and precision. The name is a bit confusing too. The C5 is capable of a much higher peak torque than the CSL DD5. CAMMUS managed to bring us a design that is different from the more established brands, and in my opinion with much success. We all know the certain issues that Fanatec has with the CSL bases, but even with those issues, the CSL DD remains a very popular base with reason. CAMMUS on the other hand has yet to prove it can provide reliable hardware. There is also the upgrade path to take into account. You can't put a different steering wheel on the base or upgrade the pedals. At least, not at this moment. Then there is a console compatibility, which is non-existent for CAMMUS. There are three major things to keep in mind when comparing these wheelbases. That being said, the CAMMUS C5 wheelbase is cheaper than the CSL DD, and it offers a better driving experience in general, which makes it for me a better choice for an entry-level wheelbase than the Fanatec CSL DD 5Nm. Thank you all for watching. I hope you had something from this video. Give a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more videos, and don't forget, if you buy new hardware, please buy via affiliate links, be it mine, be it of another content creator, doesn't matter, just do it, because you give a free tip to somebody that helped you out. Thank you all for watching, have a nice evening, bye bye.